A lonely rancher had buried his heart years ago, until two small girls appeared at his fence, holding a secret that would bring his lost world back to life. Wyoming, 1887. The late summer sun hung heavy, bleaching the vast prairie to a pale gold. Elias Kane leaned into a stubborn fence post, his muscles straining against the weathered timber. He wiped sweat from his brow with a worn sleeve and froze. Two figures stood at the edge of his land. They were young girls, no older than 5, their simple dresses faded by the sun, their feet bare and dust-covered. They clutched a single, tattered bag between them, their eyes wide and fixed on him. One child took a hesitant step forward. "Are you our papa?" she whispered. Elias felt the world slow. The very air seemed to still. His heart, a dormant drum, gave a single, painful thud against his ribs. He lowered his hammer and crouched, bringing himself to their level. "What are you called?" he asked, his voice softer than he'd used in years. "I'm Lily," the brave one said. "And this is Rose." Her sister offered a timid wave. "Mama told us, if we were ever alone, to find the man who carried the scent of the campfire and rode with the storm." The words struck Elias with the force of a physical blow. That phrase. It was too intimate, too specific. It belonged to another lifetime. Clara. That's what she'd always said when he'd returned from the high country, smelling of ash and the coming rain. He studied their faces. The same gentle curve of the jaw, the same serious set of their brows. Then he saw it, a small, tarnished pendant on a leather cord around Lily's neck. His calloused fingers reached for it. "May I?" She nodded. Inside the locket, a single, dried bluebonnet was pressed. And on the other side, a name etched in a delicate hand, Clara. His breath vanished. It couldn't be. She was gone. The riverboat explosion on the Missouri. They'd identified her by the brooch she always wore. He had buried what remained. He had buried his future with her. But these children, they were pieces of her, standing before him. Elias stood, his movements slow, deliberate. "You must be weary," he said, his voice thick. He reached for their bag. Rose nodded, her small body swaying with exhaustion. He pushed the creaking gate wide. "Come inside. Get out of this heat." They followed without question, falling into step beside him. Lily's tiny hand slipped into his. He didn't pull away. Inside the quiet cabin, he poured fresh water and found some biscuits. The girl sat at his rough-hewn table, watching his every move. As they ate, Elias went to a trunk in the corner. Beneath a folded blanket was a small, faded daguerreotype. Clara's face smiled up at him, frozen in time. He looked from the image to the girls. They had her eyes. The same light in them. A storm of confusion and a fragile, terrifying hope began to brew within him. He sat across from them. "Where's your mother now?" Lily looked down at her hands. "She got real sick," she murmured. "She told us to come here. She said this was our true home." Elias felt the floor tilt beneath him. His gaze fell back to the locket. The river hadn't taken everything. It had left him a reason to breathe again. 2 small reasons, watching him, waiting. He leaned back, the weight of 5 empty years pressing down. Somewhere deep inside the stone wall around his heart, a crack appeared. The heart you bury is only waiting for a reason to beat again. The next morning, Elias watched the girls, his daughters, chase a stubborn hen through the dewy grass. "Easy now," he called, an unfamiliar warmth in his chest. "She won't give us breakfast if you frighten her." Lily spun, laughing. "She's quicker than a jackrabbit." "Not quicker than me," Rose yelled, darting from behind the coop. By midday, he had the old saddle on a patient mare called Daisy. "Ever ridden?" he asked. Lily shook her head, Rose puffed her chest. He lifted Rose into the saddle and climbed up behind her, his arms a secure cage. They rode slowly to the creek, the girls' laughter mixing with the creak of leather. He showed them the old grove where Clara would gather plums. And in that moment, watching Lily smile, he saw her mother so clearly it stole his breath. A long rusted door in his soul began to creak open. The accident happened fast. Lily, running down a slope, caught her foot and fell hard. Elias dropped the axe and was at her side in an instant. She sat clutching her knee, blood welling through a tear in her dress, her lip trembling. "You're all right," he soothed, using a clean cloth from his pocket to dab the cut. He wrapped it tightly. "You're not cross?" she asked, voice small. He looked at her then, truly looked. The sprinkle of freckles across her nose was Clara's. "Not at you, sweetheart," he said, his voice breaking. "Never at you." She leaned into him, her small arms circling his neck, and Rose joined the embrace. They stayed like that, a tangled knot of newfound family under the endless sky. That evening, with the girls asleep by the hearth, Elias stared into the fire. They were real. They were his. But a new, dangerous thought took root. What if Clara was also out there? The heart he thought was ash was now a burning ember. It beat not just for memory, but for a truth still hidden. Days later, Elias rode into town and found the sheriff. "I need your help, Tom." He explained about the girls, about Clara. The sheriff listened, his expression growing grave. "There was a woman," he said slowly. "Found near the border, north of here. Badly hurt. No memory. A family took her in." Elias's heart hammered. "Where?" The sheriff gave him directions to a remote homestead. "It's a hard ride, Elias. And she might not be who you think." "I have to know," Elias said, already turning to leave. After 2 days on the trail, he arrived at a modest ranch tucked into a valley. A woman answered the door, her eyes wary. "I'm looking for someone," Elias said, his hat in his hands. "A woman named Clara." The woman's face softened with pity. "She's inside. She's been poorly." The room was dim, smelling of herbs and wood smoke. And there she was. Paler, thinner, her hair shorter. But it was Clara. His Clara. "Clara," he whispered. Her eyes fluttered open, clouded with fever and confusion. I'm sorry," she rasped. "Do I know you?" The question was a knife to his soul. He swallowed hard. "Once. A long time ago." She blinked, struggling to focus. "Have we met?" He didn't press. He simply stayed. He mended fences, tended the stock, and drew water. When asked, he said he was a friend. Clara watched him, a flicker of familiarity in her gaze, the way he tied a knot, the way he held a cup. Once, when a strand of hair fell across her face, his hand twitched as if to brush it back, a ghost of an old habit. He caught himself and turned away, but she had seen it. That night, she cried out in her sleep, trapped in a nightmare. "The smoke! Elias, run!" She bolted upright, gasping. He was in the doorway, his own breath caught in his throat. Why did I say your name?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Because a part of you knows me," he replied, his voice thick with emotion. "Love doesn't beg to be remembered, it waits to be recognized." Summer brought the first anniversary of their reunion. To mark the occasion, Elias organized a gathering. Neighbors from miles around came, curious about the family that had emerged from such a dramatic story. Clara, who had initially been nervous, found herself greeting guests with a grace she thought she'd lost. She moved through the crowd, her hand often finding Elias's arm, drawing strength from his solid presence. As twilight settled, Elias stood before their friends and neighbors. He spoke not of loss, but of gratitude. "They say you can't reclaim what the river takes," he said, his arm around Clara, the girls beaming at their side. "But sometimes the river gives back something more precious than what it took. It gave me not just my wife, but the family we were always meant to be." The cheers that followed echoed across the valley, a testament to a community that had witnessed a miracle. Later that night, when the last guest had departed and the girls were asleep, exhausted and happy, Clara and Elias sat on their porch under a canopy of stars. The harmonica lay between them, a silent witness to their journey. Do you ever think about what might have been? Clara asked, her head resting on his shoulder. If the girls hadn't found their way to you? Elias was quiet for a long moment, watching the constellations wheel overhead. I think the same force that pulled the rivers to the sea brought our girls home. The same gravity that holds these stars in place kept our hearts connected, even when we were apart. He turned to her, his face etched with the wisdom of hard-won peace. Some loves are too strong for even death to break, Clara. Ours is one of them. In the following months, Clara's memories continued to return, not in painful torrents but gentle waves. She remembered their wedding day, the way Elias's hands had trembled as he placed the ring on her finger. She remembered painting the shutters of their first home together, the blue paint ending up more on them than on the wood. Each recovered memory was a treasure, carefully unwrapped and shared with Elias, who would add his own details, weaving their history back together. The girls grew, their personalities flourishing in the security of their family. Lily revealed a talent for storytelling, often entertaining them with elaborate tales of their adventures. Rose showed a remarkable gift with animals, able to calm the most skittish horse with her gentle touch. Their differences complemented each other, just as their parents' strengths created an unshakable foundation. One evening, Elias came home from town with a package wrapped in brown paper. He gathered his family at the table. Inside were 4 matching journals, each with their name tooled in leather on the cover. I thought we might start writing our story down, he explained. So we never forget how we found each other. That night, and many nights after, they would sit together, recording the ordinary miracles of their days, the first calf born in spring, the harvest from the garden, the way the light fell through the kitchen window at tea time. Years later, those journals would become their most cherished possession, filled with the story of a love that refused to die, a family forged in hope, and the unshakable belief that no one is truly lost as long as someone is searching for them. The legacy of Elias and Clara Kane became woven into the fabric of the territory, a story told around campfires and hearths, a testament to the power of love to find its way home, no matter how long the journey, no matter how dark the night. And on the porch of the ranch, the sign Elias had carved still hung, its letters worn smooth by weather and time, the Kane family. Lily, Rose, and Clara. Welcome home. It stood as a promise to all who passed by that sometimes, against all odds, what was broken can be made whole, what was lost can be found, and the human heart possesses a compass that always points toward love. He never forced the past on her. Instead, he offered fragments of it. He told her how she loved starry nights, how she couldn't sing a note in tune, how she'd once tried to milk a cow and been startled by its tail. Sometimes she would smile, other times she'd just listen. One afternoon, she found an old journal tucked away. Her own handwriting filled the pages. Recipes, thoughts, a pressed flower. On one page, it read, "When the path is dark, let the heart lead." She looked up at him, tears in her eyes. "This is mine. I wrote this." She stepped closer, her confusion a tangible thing. "Why can't I remember us?" His strong, work-worn hands enveloped hers. "You don't have to. Not yet. I have enough memories for us both." In that moment, a dam broke within her. "I think," she whispered, the words a painful admission, "I think I loved you." He drew her into his arms, holding her as she wept. He was a patient man. He knew how to wait for a harvest. And she was worth every second of the wait. The wagon journey back to his ranch felt like a dream. Clara sat beside him, her hand resting in his. In the back, Lily and Rose peered over the sides, their excitement palpable. When the familiar gates came into view, the girls scrambled down before the wagon had fully stopped. "Mama," they cried, launching themselves at her. Clara knelt, gathering them into a fierce embrace, her shoulders shaking with silent sobs. "I knew we'd find it," Rose whispered into her shoulder. Elias stood back, watching the scene unfold. This was the picture he had carried in his heart for 5 long years, finally made real. That night, after the house was quiet, Clara sat on the porch. Elias joined her, holding something behind his back. "I found this," he said, presenting a carefully mended harmonica. It was yours. Her fingers trembled as she took it. She brought it to her lips. The first note was shaky, but then a melody emerged, a simple tune she had played for him in their first home. When the song faded, she lowered the instrument. I don't remember everything, she said softly. But this feels like coming home. If this tale of lost love and a family reborn touched your heart, please give this video a like and subscribe to Winds of Thought for more stories of the wild frontier. Months drifted by, peaceful and full. Clara's strength returned, her laughter once again ringing through the cabin. The girls flourished, their faces smudged with dirt and happiness. One evening, Elias hung a carved sign over the porch. It read, "The Kane family. Lily, Rose, and Clara. Welcome home." Clara saw it and her hand flew to her mouth, her eyes shining. Later, Lily brought him a carefully drawn picture. In wobbly letters, it said, "Thank you for finding us." Elias felt a profound shift in his soul. He looked at Clara, who met his gaze with a deep, steady love. "They told me you were gone," he said, his voice low. She reached up, her hand cupping his cheek. "I was just lost," she whispered. "And you, my love, were my compass." The seasons turned, and the Kane Ranch blossomed with new life. Elias taught the girls the rhythms of the land, how to read the weather in the clouds, how to track animals by the faintest signs, and how to listen to the stories the wind carried across the plains. Lily, with her curious mind, took to it all with a fierce intensity, while Rose preferred the gentle company of the animals, often found whispering secrets to the horses in their stalls. One crisp autumn morning, Elias decided it was time to expand the homestead. "A family needs room to grow," he announced over breakfast. The project became their shared purpose. Elias felled timber from the North Ridge, his axe swings filled with a purpose he hadn't known in years. Clara and the girls stripped the bark, their hands working in unison. They built an addition to the cabin, a proper bedroom for the girls with a window that faced the rising sun. Each nail driven felt like another stitch mending their torn past. As they worked, more memories returned to Clara in fleeting glimpses. The smell of fresh-cut pine triggered a vision of helping her father build a crib for a new calf. The weight of a hammer in her hand felt strangely familiar. One afternoon, while fitting a window frame, she suddenly recalled Elias building their original home, her handing him tools as they dreamed of their future together. The memory was so vivid she had to sit down, the weight of it both painful and beautiful. Winter arrived early, draping the ranch in a thick blanket of snow. The isolation brought its own magic. Evenings were spent by the roaring hearth, Clara teaching the girls to read from a tattered book of poetry, Elias whittling small animals from blocks of wood. The world outside disappeared, leaving only their warm, lit circle. It was during one of these quiet nights that Rose, nestled against Clara's side, asked the question they had all avoided. "Mama, where were you all that time?" The fire crackled as Clara searched for words. "I was lost, my darling. My mind was like a book with all the pages mixed up. I couldn't remember how to find my way back to you." Lily looked up from her drawing. "But you found us in the end." Clara's eyes met Elias's across the room. "No, my darlings. You found me. You and your papa. You were my North Star." The deep snows brought challenges that forged their bond stronger. When a blizzard trapped them for a week, they worked together to keep the animals fed and the fire burning. Clara discovered a resilience she didn't know she possessed, recalling skills from her childhood on a farm. Elias watched her with awe, seeing not just the woman he loved, but a partner capable of weathering any storm by his side. Spring thaw revealed the world anew. The day the last of the snow melted from the south pasture, Elias took Clara to the very spot where he'd first seen the girls. The fence post he'd been mending still stood, now surrounded by the first brave wildflowers of the season. He took her hands in his. "This is where my life began again," he said softly. "Where they brought me back to you." Clara knelt, touching the earth where her daughters had stood. "They carried my heart to you when I couldn't." The ranch began to thrive in ways Elias had never imagined. With Clara's careful hand, they planted a proper vegetable garden, the girls took charge of a flock of chickens. Selling eggs in town became their first business venture. Visitors to the Kane spread often remarked on the feeling of the place, not just a working ranch, but a home filled with a palpable sense of love and redemption.